I know they say you can't learn how to paint by reading a book, but it certainly doesn't hurt to get knowledge from the experts, from people who have been painting for years and years before us, from artists who have gone through the mud, who have really stood the test of time and written books about it. In today's episode of Brushwork, my co-host Jennifer and I are going to go through art books in specific categories, not just our most favorite art books, but books that are great about art business, books for complete beginners, and books that will help you take your work from hobbyist to professional. Whether you need some inspiration, a little artistic pick-me-up, you might even say, or you want to get nitty-gritty into the details of learning how to paint, these books are for you. This is Brushwork. Today on the podcast, I have my co-host, who you get to see in person for the first time, Jennifer. Hello.
I'm not a disembodied voice anymore.
It's incredible. It's incredible. You're not just a voice in the sky telling me sassy thoughts. It's really great.
Right.
Here's my question for you. What is your relationship with art books? And why do you read art books besides me telling you to?
Well, that is the main reason why I read them. I love them because I think we can learn about different times, how we got to where we're at as artists, especially as female artists. You get to see the environment that was created, like Ninth Street Women. That book talks about the environment that some extremely famous painters from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, what they came up through, what they had to deal with. So we understand kind of the scaffolding of, what we're dealing with.
Today, we've collected a group of books and a bunch of different categories that I think it's like almost like we're giving out awards for our little art book club. Let's start with books for absolute beginners.
It's the practical handbook for the emerging artist. This literally goes over everything. It's two people that have come from different angles in the art business and said, this is what you need to know when you're trying to traverse this hot mess of whatever the art world is. From packing to how to approach a gallery to lawyering up, making sure that you have covered yourself legally. Your rights as an artist whenever you either license or loan or do any of that with your artwork, like how to approach that, what might be the best way to do that. But it's just basics. It's basics of tools and everything else that you could ever think of. Like they thought of stuff that I didn't even think of. So
it's so good.
Like, it's super great. Like diagrams on how to pack pieces if you're going to send them, like to the T.
Yeah, it's basically failure proof.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. It's a must have. There are a few must haves that I really feel like you need to have, and that is one of them for sure.
So good. My pick for best book for beginners is a book about technical skills. Jennifer went to like the art business side, and I was like, what if you learned how to draw first? So my book is Lessons in Classical Drawing by Juliet Aristides.
Okay.
And also Lessons in Classical Painting by Juliet Aristides. And you read them in that order. These are both 5-star instructional books. Juliet goes through the drawing book and she gives you exercises to try. It's like step-by-step instructions for how to get the look of classical drawings and to really train your eye on how to see and how to use your skills to make things happen. And I'm an abstract artist, so I paint shapes all day, but I still think that having a drawing background is essential for an artist.
Absolutely. I think it's the first thing. Yeah.
It's so good. This teacher, Julia Aristides, she has an atelier that you can actually take online. It's a 2-year-long program, and I would also recommend that class. But she is just such a thoughtful, beautiful writer, and this book will transform your drawing, and you will gain skills that will lend itself to painting no matter what you end up doing. If you're like, I want to do abstracts, or I want to do landscapes, or I want to do anything that has to do with realism or non-realism, you're going to get your skills here. 5-star book. Both of these, this and Lessons in Classical Painting, are fantastic.
Nice.
So good. Let's go into best books about painting.
I think we can both agree on this. It's Richard Schmidt, Alla Prima,
Oh,
1 and
wow.
2.
You nailed it.
It's the Bible. I mean, it is the Bible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I even have the copy here because I was like, I'm gonna this book is so heavy.
yeah.
This is our pick. It's Richard Smith's Alla Prima 2. I haven't actually read Alla Prima 1. I think it's the second book is just
It's basically the
iterations.
same thing, but his assistant added more to the end of that one.
That's right. This book, it goes through so many things. I'm gonna show you a very quick page here. Like, here's how to like prep your drawing. Like, it's so good. It's just like everything you could possibly want to know by such a master. He was so good at painting, and this book is next level. It's also the most expensive book I have on my pile. This one
Oh,
cost
wow.
me
Yeah,
over $100
it's
to
not
buy.
cheap. Yeah.
But like the learning you're gonna this is a textbook.
It's a class. It
it's
literally is a painting class in a book.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
thorough.
I think what I love about that book is that it's not like presumptuous. Like he just comes very calmly and he's just like, why are you overthinking this? Like
Yeah.
it's really not as complicated as you've made this mountain to be, you know?
He's
So,
so good. He'll teach you about light, he'll teach you about edges, he'll teach you about color, he'll teach you about how to start a painting, how to finish a painting, how to draw from light, if values, like the whole shebang. It is very detailed. It's very good. I think his assistant did a remarkable job in the second book. If you only buy one, I would actually say you should buy the second edition of it, the updated one. This is a book that you might have a hard time finding. I hate to say that here, but you got to like really look around for it, and you might be able to find resellers who are like artists who are just like, I read that and now I don't need it anymore. You might be able to find it for cheaper, but it's worth the
mhm.
buy. It's worth the investment. It's one of those great
Yeah,
books.
it definitely is.
There's something that a teacher taught me way back when, and she's like, Stephanie, you can't read your way into learning about art. And to a degree, I agree with that, but I do think that some of these books here will prompt you into painting, and that helps you learn more. And this one by Richard Smith is incredible. I have a second pick though, because I couldn't pick just one. I
Okay.
think that is like my number one. But my second one is an ebook that I read called Hawthorne on Painting. And this is a book
Yes.
that's a lot shorter, and it's basically lessons that his students, Hawthorne students, had written down and put together, and it's all about the basics of painting, but from the perspective of landscape painting students. And I think it's one of the great like little nugget books where you just open up a chapter and you start reading, and it's from a lesson about perspective or just anything that he was talking about that day. It's also a great book about learning how to be a student and how to like get critiqued and how to really improve your work in a way that feels long lasting and not just like, oh, if I just did this one little thing, it works. But it's just like, oh, if I just did this one little thing, my whole art is going to transform. And it's quite good.
Yeah.
Would recommend Hawthorne on Painting. Okay, how about best inspirational books?
Art and Fear.
Art and Fear is so good.
I think you and I both were like, we started to read that book, and it's one of those books that you have to push yourself to get through because it hits you at home. Like
Hmm.
you will find something in this book that, makes you at least acknowledge the fear that you have. It's
It's a classic.
it's so good.
Hmm.
Obviously, Ninth Street Women, that's a great book
Nice Street
to
Women,
check out.
fabulous 5-star biography of a book. It's quite good.
Yeah. It's a big book though. It's like 900 pages, so be ready for that, guys. It's a big one. 7 Days in the Art World, I think is another great one because that is
Oh yeah,
really good peek behind the curtain of what really happens in the art world.
I was
Yeah,
pleasantly
it's a
surprised.
Sarah Thornton is a reporter that just kind of immersed herself in the art world and came at it from all different directions. So,
Delicious. My choices for best inspiration books are three, and they starts with Steal Like an Artist, and it goes through Keep Going,
yes.
and then it goes into Show Your Work. And
Yes.
these books are they're short,
Yeah.
they're punchy, they're interesting. They get you journaling, they get you moving, they get you out of fear and into action. I feel like Austin Kleon is one of the greatest like creative inspirational writers that I've ever come across. I just whenever I pick up these books and they're fun. They have like cute little illustrations of his drawings and great text. They're so motivating. They just like you pick one up and you're just like, yeah, I gotta make art. And I gotta like
Yeah,
get rid of
right?
all the steps that was like inhibiting me to like not do anything. I just someone just like screw it. I'm just gonna be an artist now. And like I read Steal Like an Artist maybe a decade ago. Like it's been a long time. And every time he comes out with a new book, I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to read this so I can get more excited about making art. Not that I need more excitement about
Yeah.
making art. I'm just like, they're so good. Would highly recommend this trilogy. And also, they're like cute and square and very fun. Show Your Work is my favorite, the third one, but I loved all three of those. Very fun. 5 stars.
They are great.
Okay. Next one is, what are your favorite books about color?
Victoria Finlay on color.
Ooh, I don't think I've read that. What it's about.
It is the natural history of your palette of colors.
Wow.
Talks about where they were from, how they were developed, the cultural significance of colors. Yeah, just the stories behind them, the history behind each color, why some of them are like super important and, they're linked intrinsically with something. When you see that color, you go, oh, that's that color. It's
Yeah.
specific. Tiffany blue,
Mm-hmm.
that's their color. Like, you know who they are. So, yeah, it's a good one. It's a really
Fabulous.
good one.
My favorite art color book is, well, we've already talked about it once today, but it is Joseph Albers' Interaction of Color. I think this is like the
Hmm.
handbook for color. This book, okay, I'm an abstract artist. I like gradients. I like thinking about color layering and optical illusions. And I feel like Joseph Albers speaks to me in a way that no other artist has ever. It's so good. And it's so like there's a lot of like mind puzzles that you're gonna have to work through when you're trying out these exercises. And I highly, highly, highly recommend finding a teacher online, like a YouTuber, who has gone through the whole book and you can see the exercises happening as like a
Yeah.
supplement with this book. But it is
Oh,
so good.
okay.
Like
Yeah.
when I saw this back image, I was like, I want to paint like that. And now I do. And it's
Yeah.
great. So would recommend
Yeah,
Interaction
you
of Color.
do. Yes.
It's so good. Yeah, like if you've
'Cause
ever
it
had,
will definitely, it'll change your practice for sure.
it will change your practice. If you've ever had like the frustration of mixing a color on your palette and then putting it on the canvas and it seems totally different, this is a book you should read. This is a book that will help you understand why that difference is happening and how to
Yeah.
actually make the color you're perceiving on the palette happen on your painting. And it's fabulous. I think Interaction of Color is a art book club favorite. It's like
Yeah.
might be number one on our list next to Ninth Street
Like
Women.
seriously, this
Yeah,
is the 50th anniversary edition of this book that
oh,
I've got right here. So
glorious.
it's been around for at least 50 years. It's pretty great.
Can't be beat. What are your favorite art biographies?
Ooh.
I've got two.
I think Ninth Street Women, that works really well.
Mm-hmm.
I have this is also kind of an inspiration book.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Hiroshige. I love, love, love Japanese woodblock prints.
They're
Like
gorgeous.
at one point I wanted to like go hardcore and learn how to do this myself. And it's extremely expensive to do and very hard to learn and it's a whole thing. But I have adapted some of the things in this book to my practice and just a fascinating to see Japan the way that he saw it is unbelievable and just to see the craftsmanship and the skill involved in doing what he did and how he pushed it forward is just fantastic. Another one, of course, is let me see if I can get to the bottom of my pile here and not knock everything over. Disrupted Realism
Yes.
by John Seed. This is a
So good.
fantastic book, especially for abstract artists. I learned about some new painters and I saw some work from painters that I absolutely love. He actually has a second edition of this book. It's a newer version that he's added new painters to. I've not gotten it yet, but I eventually will. But this book is fantastic for inspiration. It's beautiful. It really is.
It's so good. I also have this book on the list today, but it's for a different category.
For
Perfect.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. I have two. that I've really liked, and one of them is one I intend to read for Art Book Club in the future, but for now, I will just say it here. This is A Giacometti Portrait by James Lord. Holy
Okay.
cats. This book, like, broke my brain a little bit. So essentially, it's a story, it's a biography, but the biography happens during the drawing of this portrait that you see on the cover.
Okay.
Giacometti was notorious for drawing and drawing and overdrawing and erasing and drawing a single portrait, just digging it into the ground. And so James Lord, who's a writer, was like, hey, you're going to do my portrait, but I'm going to write about each iteration. And every time at the end of a session, I'm going to take a photo
Oh,
of the
wow.
portrait. And so you see different versions of this portrait happen. And it's like a deep dive into the psyche of the artist, of Giacometti. And it's so good and it's so interesting. It's a very old piece of writing, but it's delicious. I'm excited.
That's wild because like de Kooning was very much that way in the respect of like they literally had to go and steal the paintings out of his studio
Yeah. Yeah.
in order to put them in like galleries and museums that he had promised them to because he would come in every day and change them.
You just
Like he
change
may
them.
paint completely over the piece and do something completely different with it.
Yeah.
Because he didn't waste canvas, but two, he just always saw something different in it every day. So it was like he never felt like he was done with his pieces.
Basically what I learned about this man is that he was like, I'm gonna draw this portrait until I hate it, and then I don't want to work on it anymore. That happened a
Oh
lot,
wow.
where you just like, there's no, I can't fix it anymore because there's no fixing, not because it's perfect,
Yeah.
but because it's hopeless.
I want to draw it till I hate it. Wow, that's an approach.
It's an
Not
approach.
I want to draw it till I love it because I think it's flawless. It's I want to draw it till I
Till
hate
you
it.
hate it, till you hate it. And I'm like, wow, okay, yeah.
That's
Anyways,
wild.
it's a short little book. It's little, and I I can't wait to read this book. Okay, the second biography that I really like is almost like a novelization of a biography, but it is definitely a biography, and that is The Agony and the Ecstasy by Irving Stone. We read this for Art Book Club.
Gosh.
It's about the life and times of Michelangelo, and I was vividly entertained the entire time. I was just like, every
It's
single
pretty
description,
entertaining. He's an entertaining dude.
like the drama, the sass, the pissing off
Yeah.
popes, the the descriptions
Yeah.
of making these amazing pieces of art. It goes through his life from when he was a baby all the way till his death, and it's detailed moments of it. The author had all of Michelangelo's letters to his family because he was a prolific letter writer. All like 400 of them translated so he could write this book. So it's like a very accurate portrayal of his life and kind of his voice and how he talked, at least how he wrote, and it's interesting and I love it. Would highly recommend. Yeah, it's so good. Okay, what is your picks for best art business book?
Takedown is just about the fact that a lot of stuff is being censored now on social media. How does that affect artists and the places that they can present their work? Because our society has become very over sexualized. Instead of looking at it as art, they look at it as pornography. And so we have a common friend who paints nudes, and she's had some issues with Instagram in the past of being able to post her stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's been tough. And like for her to stream painting, like on Twitch, she has to be very, very careful. But even YouTube and stuff, if you want to monetize, you have to be very, very careful what you put up. So it just, it talks about the push and pull of that and kind of digging in and trying to figure out what you really think about that subject of like if this is your business, how are you going to do this?
Right.
These are the things you're going to run into. Censored art today is very similar. It's pretty up to date. It's part of a group of books that this group keeps building on. They'll pick different topics and they'll write, current event stuff about what's going on in that topic. And so censored art today is, I think, a great one because it definitely is something that, you know, all of us have to think about, depending on
Absolutely.
how political you want to be with the stuff that you do and the stories you want to tell or how provocative you want some of your stuff to be. How are you going to deal with people that don't like female artists. Like they want to censor them.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's like, how do you deal with that? So I think those are really good business books, at least for females. I can't talk about the male contingent, but I think it's really important. Obviously, the practical handbook for the emerging artists fits into that category very well as well.
That's my pick.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
This book, The Practical Handbook for the Emerging Artist, we've said it once, we'll say it again. It is so good for writing contracts. It's good for making your own resume. It's good for figuring out how to take pictures of your artwork. It's good for so many things. And if you're just starting to think about selling your art even a little bit, this would be a fantastic book. I also have a second pick, which is Art Slash Work. Very similar kind of book. And
Oh
I
yeah,
think it's
yeah.
aimed more at artists who are not just beginners, but people who are like looking just to like dig in deeper. There's a second edition, so make sure you get the most recent one if you get Art Slash Work. And also it's
Mhm.
like neon colored, so they look really similar. But
Why do they always pick that yellow color
I don't
for
know.
these books?
I don't
Like
know.
business is yellow.
It reminds me of a highlighter.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's also a fantastic read. So either of those books
Yeah.
are quite good. And Censored Art Today is it's a great one. I'm actually that's gonna take me right into my honorable mention, which is Hot Topics in the Art World is the kind of overlaying group of books that Censored Art Today is part of. And I really liked Curating Art Now, which is another short book that we read in that series. They have 6 or 7 books at this point now, and we're just like slowly making our way through all of them. They keep releasing them, so they all
Yeah.
feel very, very current, and I think they're fantastic reads. This book is one of the first art books that I was ever given, and it's an old one, but it's a good one, and it is The Art Spirit by Robert Henry.
Ooh.
It is a book that is it's about technical advice, but it's also about like how to be a student, and it reminds me a lot of Hawthorne on painting, but a little bit differently. It just has so many things about how to be a student of your own art and how to approach your work even if you don't have a teacher that's helping you. It gives you just little snippets on like how to look at your work, how to think critically about your work, and how to move forward when you may not have like a group of other artists around you and you're just by yourself.
It's important. That's really important
Mm-hmm.
because as artists, we spend a lot of time alone.
Yes,
So being self motivated is extremely important.
totally. Now for the best part. What is your favorite art book? What's number one?
Ooh.
Or one and two, as is my case, because I couldn't pick just one.
Alla Prima.
Delicious.
Art is a Tyrant is a fantastic book. One of my favorite reads. It's like mixing Chronicles of Narnia with an art book. It's fantastic, but it's real. Like that's the crazy
It's
thing.
real.
Yeah,
Wow.
her life was wild,
Hmm.
just wild. I really enjoyed that.
Delicious book. It's
Yeah,
a biography
yeah.
about Rosa Bonheur and her life and her dramas and how she just made it in the art world. The author is
Mhm.
so fantastic. I actually just finished another book by the author because I loved her so much called The Mistress of Paris, and it's not an art book, but it's also really great.
Okay.
Good pick. Good pick. My favorite art
What
book,
are yours?
I have two. I'm gonna go through
Okay.
them real quick, which is I love this book. It's like disrupted realism.
It's a fantastic book.
It's so good. It's
It really
so
is.
beautiful. The pictures are amazing. The interview questions are thoughtful, and I just love them. Whenever I'm like, I need some inspiration, I open this book and I'm like, have I even seen this picture before? It's so good. And the artists are all
Yeah.
alive and they're all like
Yeah.
actively working and like showing their work out online. And it's so good. It's a book that will make you feel connected with the art world because these are all like
Hmm.
living, working artists. And John Seed is a
Yeah.
fantastic collector of these people. So love it, love it. And then my other favorite is so my favorite artist is Corot, and I love his paintings. And so this book is called In the Light of Italy, and it's about Corot and early open air painting. And I know you're thinking, Stephanie,
Ooh.
you're an abstract artist, but I just love landscape painting and looking at them.
Of
And
course.
it goes through his life, it goes through his style, it goes through the people he painted with, it goes to all of these cities, sometimes it organizes the pictures by location and not just by artist, and you kind of see like a timeline of
Oh,
like
okay.
history happening and like how the earth is moving, which is so cool. And it just talks about how this is like kind of light in Italy and in that region where it just like the colors are so different than anywhere else in the world, and it really
Sure.
pinpoints like why that is and how the colors change and how it like really influenced a lot of artists. And then like it'll show some comparisons for when those artists went back to like Paris, and how everything just like really changed after they came back from that region of just like dry
Sure.
air. And it's so cool. So that's one of my favorite books to look at.
Nice. See that in your work, even though it's landscaping. Like I could totally see that in your work.
Right. It's I
So,
love I love having a sense of light and abstraction. I think that can
yeah.
like really
Yeah.
change things, and it gets interesting.
One thing that I could recommend is on YouTube, there is a channel called Perspective. And if you want to see some great documentaries and just pieces that involve art or around art, they have a library full of stuff that's just fantastic that you can just dig through and watch at your own pace. But I learned a lot about art through that because
Nice.
I didn't pick up until like 2020 into painting, and I didn't really feel like my education did a very good job of giving me that kind of background.
Yeah.
So I actually went back and kind of taught myself and like dug in. And since I do abstract art as well, I dug into the abstract half of things and, past, present, future type situation just to see where it came from, see why people did what they did. And it definitely influences your work because then you're like, oh, I liked what they did here, and
Nice.
how can I use something like that, or how does that apply to what I do? So yeah, I think it's a great resource if you can check it
Heck
out.
yeah. What's a book you're looking forward to reading?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm not as voracious of a reader as you are. So I appreciate doing this because I once I get into it, I really love reading. It's just getting myself to the book is half the battle.
That's probably a very common sentiment that I don't feel, but I would
Right,
understand.
right. He's like, "Hey, I have another 900-page book for you to read." And I'm like,
You can do this in two
"Stephanie,
and a
you're
half weeks,
killing
right?
me here." And you're like, "Oh, I finished 400 pages in like 2 hours." I'm like, "Listen here."
Listen, I just eat up words with my eyes.
I know. No, but it's great because, like, again, we get to learn about people and places and stuff that we wouldn't have normally got to, experience.
It's pretty fun. Viewer, if you want to come to Art Book Club, we meet every single month, and next month we're reading The Art Thief. We meet on September something or another. I'll have it linked in the show notes, and you should join us. Read the book, come to the chat, and we
Yeah.
can we can talk about The Art Thief, which is an art crime book, which we've never read before, and I'm so excited. I'm like, yes,
I,
I
I'm
love
I'm
drama.
okay. That is a book I'm looking forward to. The
Yeah,
Art Thief is something that I'm definitely looking forward to.
it's gonna be
Got to
good.
get a little intrigue in there.
A little mystery, a little drama. I just got it from
Hmm.
the library and I'm like, yes, let's go. Let's do it. It's amazing. If you have an art book that you think we should cover on Art Book Club, you should tell us in the comments because I think there's so many great
Yeah,
ones out there and I'm only going to find so many and I would love to hear ones. I want to read books and I want to read them with you. I
yeah,
think it'll be fun.
yeah.
Jennifer, where can people find you online?
They can find me at visualnomad.art.
You can find me at stephaniescott.art. That is my website and also my Instagram. Thank you for watching this episode of Brushwork Podcast. It's been really fun having you, Jen. And till next time, peace out, Girl Scouts. Make good choices. We'll see you later. Goodbye. Yes, we did it. Wow, that was so good.